Hello and via live. And I know I tell the audience this every call that I have a really, really special guest today. This guy, our show is called the Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur Show. This guy is living it. So let's get into it. Hello again. I'm Christian Fischer. I'm the host of the Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur Show. I'm super excited. This guy, I've been haunting him for 4 months now to come on to do the show. His name is Eric Brown. If you guys haven't met Eric Brown, everybody needs an Eric because there's a few things super, super special about him. Number one, he's a chef by trade. Number two, he sold $1 million company. There's very few people which can say that. He also plays in ice cream. He's an amazing marketer, and he built a new company as we speak. So we talking about a real disruptor. So Eric Brown, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Christian.
So Eric, give the audience the 5-minute cliff note who Eric Brown is and what you do today.
Yeah, I consider myself unemployable. So I like to work on projects that connect people. And most of them tend to be related around food. I say that I like to be a good blend of marketing, technology, and food is really like the three things in life that make me happy outside of my family, of course. So yeah, my early career was actually more on the tech side, kind of getting into advertising, doing things with online marketing and social. And then as that evolved, I was able to have the good fortune to sell one of my companies, use some of that money, I guess, to go to culinary school, which is very expensive, as people know. And I had kids along the way, and I've always been close to food. And more recently, getting out of just like restaurant marketing and other things where I was helping other people, I also decided to start my own venture called Third Space Kitchen. And I would say that we are a culinary event studio. We focus on cooking classes, we focus on private events and team building for companies, basically. So it's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. And, we've been friends now for almost 5 years. And by the way, truth be told, Eric is also one of our business partners. So if you ever need marketing, Eric is the best guy in the industry because he knows the back of the house, he knows the front of the house, he knows the business inside and out. So besides, if you guys ever need anything, you guys need to reach out to Eric. And so Eric, talk to our audience a little bit. How did it go from starting a e-commerce business on the tech side? Where did food come in? And where from food came in marketing, which is also a different thing? And where did Third Kitchen come in from all of that?
Well, it's really funny. When I started my first company in the tech space, we were focused on advertising, and as an early stage startup, basically trying to find people to back us. We didn't have any money. Quit my job with an idea on how to make the advertising industry online better, but with no money, it was really getting expensive to go out to eat. Couldn't do that anymore. And I was really tired of TV dinners. So I figured, you know what, I should probably grow up and learn how to cook. And so I enrolled in some recreational classes and realized that I had this passion for food as well, that it was kind of untapped. And so, I was able to, develop that company, but also as kind of like an outlet, really pursue the culinary field as well. And so, bought as many books as I could, hung out with a lot of cool chefs and restaurant operators. And that kind of just got me to the point where, many, many, many years later, I was actually able to work on something of my own, using all the lessons learned, working with others and helping them with their businesses.
It's awesome. For me, every time I think, of you, by the way, Eric also wrote multiple books. I think he had 10 or 15 a day. So you really did it all. So if you think about culinary and hospitality overall, where do you think some of those traditional marketing principles are applicable today in the way the industry runs today?
Yeah. Well, one of the things I see is the messaging. So a lot of people in the space focus on, features. If it's like a tool, they focus on, menu, which is great. But at the end of the day, whether it's a product, a physical product, or something like a service, whether it's a restaurant or a hotel or whatever, it's really around the experience, right? So the product experience, the customer experience coming in, and focusing on that, and then the story around why you exist is really where I see people getting more success. So I think using the principle of just kind of treating people the way you want to be treated. I know it's
Mhm.
cliche, but then also just saying like, hey, what does that experience look like, and how can I make sure that it's not just me delivering on that experience? Because I'll tell you, one of the challenges I've had, of course, as a owner and operator is, unlike tech products, which are easier to scale to some extent because you can just fire up more servers or whatever. I can't just clone myself. So I have to figure out a way to do that, and how to clone the experience in a way that makes sense for the person delivering it.
It's awesome. And if anybody's just listening in and coming into this, we live here today with Eric Brown, an amazing human being, great marketer, good business person, and restaurateur. Eric, the whole idea of the disruptive chef is that we want to help chefs think a little bit different. They all feel like they're stuck behind the kitchen. There's nothing else they can do. And we want to teach them and bring them some new, really cool industry professionals for them to kind of look differently and disrupt their thinking.
Mhm.
So, around marketing, which is not natural to chefs, what do you think are some of the fundamental marketing strategies every chef can do today and tomorrow to see a result in a very short period of time?
So it's I don't want to say it's unnatural for chefs, but
Mhm.
as far as the working environment goes, it's a little tricky in terms of marketing yourself.
Mhm.
What I mean is, if you're front of the house, like you're with the customer, you're interacting with people all the time, you naturally, hopefully, have the ability to kind of talk and sell and um, just relate to people. Whereas I'm not saying that people in the back of the house don't, but those opportunities aren't as frequent. And more often than not, depending on where you're cooking, there's literally a wall between you and the customer.
Mhm.
So when you're thinking about either going out on your own or at least trying to become known, you have to come out beyond that wall. And the
Mhm.
easiest way to do that, I think, because it's free, and because people pretty much have their phones on them all the time, whether they're supposed to or not. Board of Health, don't listen to this. But there's an opportunity to really not just tell your story, but it's not like you don't necessarily have to go out there and start journal entering or doing video blogs on, here I am cooking or whatever. But you can talk about what it's like to be a chef, or talk about why you became a chef, or just take a few video clips of, your food, or some, maybe what seemed to you mundane task, as like coming up with a menu. Just a
Mhm.
minute ago, I was in the back here, um, recipe testing cupcakes for birthday parties. And that may not seem that interesting, but to me, it's actually interesting for two reasons. One, I love it when kids,
Mhm.
especially, come here and they celebrate something that's truly, magical to them for 90 minutes, right? Um, the other thing is, I also want to separate myself from potentially someone saying, well, I'll just go get cupcakes at the grocery store, right?
Yep.
So I want to provide a really high end product. And I also want to be in tune with what's required for making that product, so that when I tell other people to do it, like I'm talking about replicating that experience, I can easily share some of the pitfalls and some of the things that we could do easier, and also think about the cost behind a premium cupcake with butter versus a non-premium cupcake with some cheap oil in it. um, and I'm not throwing shade on anybody's cupcakes with oil in them, but I'm just saying that all these things around being a business owner, those are all even missed opportunities that I could have taken advantage of today, just filming myself or what I was doing. But
Mhm.
thinking about that all the time, we're very good here, I think, about sharing what it's like to have an experience here as part of one of our classes or team building events. I think some of the more behind the scene things that are probably more relatable to chefs are things that they can do every day even if they don't run their own business. And so that's what I would do is I would
Mhm.
get out your phone and just start talking or start showing what you're doing. And even if you're not pitching to customers, there may be other restaurant owners saying like, hey, I really like this person. They seem like they're probably pretty easy to work with. They've got some really good restaurant concepts or ideas around how to develop menus. I got a new concept. Let me reach out to this person and see if there's a partnership, and
Mhm.
get out from being, okay, yes, whatever your role is in the back of the house, now you're seen more of as an innovator or somebody that's, potentially a leader. So you kind of elevate your position just by just showing who you are.
I absolutely love that. And if you or any of our listeners have seen the latest stats where 8 out of 10 restaurants fail, number one, because they were started by chefs and they think they just need good food. And unfortunately, there's more to it. There's the HR piece, there's the business piece, there's the design piece, and there's the marketing piece. You and I talk a lot about Sam. Everybody needs to fall in love with Sam and date Sam. And Sam stands for sales and marketing. So, Eric, if somebody wants to start a restaurant or even start a brand as a side hustle, what would you recommend to them to start with to fall in love with Sam?
So a lot of people will spend time and money, and a lot of both, to develop a concept, to build out a concept, to open their doors, and then, spend some amount of money on marketing. And that's kind of backwards, in my opinion. uh, Really, before you even open your doors or even develop your concept, and this is not just restaurants, really applies to anything, there's a lot of work that you can do in terms of getting people interested and enrolled in your idea before you even spend any money on ingredients, rent, any of that stuff. So what you want to do is you want to start telling your story and sharing your idea with people in a way that gets them excited about what's coming. Also, you get feedback. You don't necessarily have to listen to everything that people say, but at least it gets them in a conversation. And the more they're in a conversation with you, the more time that they invest with you, the more they're going to support you when it comes time to actually launching your next business.
Mhm.
Um, so I think it's really thinking about, yeah, developing that audience before you open your doors. So when you open your doors, you have that initial support versus trying to, you know, build an audience for 3 or 6 months or even longer while you're paying rent, you're paying utilities, and you're paying staff.
So you don't recommend the whole idea, build it and people will come.
I think certain people can do that. And if you're really good at picking up on trends, um, you might be able to do that. If you heard about the cronut and came up with your own version of the cronut like a month later, then maybe you could have, as long as you didn't get sued for doing that. But other than that, I think most people are in a situation, especially not being known, where you have to really enroll people to be your own, sort of sales and marketing team. And we talk a lot about that with writing books too, right? It's
Mhm.
You get that group of people that can really not only help you edit it or give you ideas about it, but they can also tell their friends like, hey, there's this book coming out, and you should think about it. And that you need more. You will not be successful on your own. So the more people that you can recruit, whether you're paying them or not, you'll be more successful overall.
I love that. So, you have two new businesses now. And how do you feel the whole correlation between marketing and perfect location? Because you say a restaurant is all about location, location, location. Where do you see that correlation between marketing and location?
Yeah, well, what's really interesting for us in terms of location, our second location is arguably in a much better space, just in terms of traffic going down the road.
Mhm.
But then there's some, real logistical things. Like I actually don't have a proper sign outside of my space. So people come here. They come here through, just basically, um, just hearing about us.
Mhm.
And whereas the other space, it's in a not a well trafficked area at all. But again, people are coming to us because of what they hear about us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that because there was two things I learned from you is around marketing. Number one, if you have an amazing website, make sure it gives you data back. And number two, there's a distinct difference between service and hospitality.
Yeah.
And that the hospitality piece is where people start talking to other people about it and bring you in. Otherwise, you just provide a service. So, Eric, I'm interested in all of the different things you have done. So now being a not just entrepreneur and a business owner, where does brand identity come in the whole business side, especially from a culinary perspective?
Yeah, well, I think the idea of branding is, I mean, it's super important, of course. You want to develop a brand, you want people to kind of get who you are, but it's not something that is necessarily, it's not a logo, it's not necessarily your colors. There's more to it. So it's really, who do you stand for, and can people get behind that or really connect with that?
Mm,
And so your brand, while the logo is important and the colors and everything that you do around your space, if you have a physical location, help people kind of resonate. Do you have something that looks modern, something more traditional? Is it, clean, cold? Like, all those things matter. But at the end of the day, people are coming because of the experience. And part of that experience is getting to know you, your staff, the story, all that. So there's a lot to it. Yeah.
I love that, and every time you talk about marketing, you make it sound so simple. What are 3 steps every chef needs to implement to start creating a brand?
Um, One, listen. I think you want to first, when we think about, like, what is this business or brand that we want to develop, you need to think about what are people asking for. All right. And then once you listen, then ask questions. And once you ask questions, then you get a better sense of what you should be creating. You can go off and work on it. But then when you work on your brand and your product or your service, then you need to ask questions, to sort of validate, are you doing what it is that people want?
Mhm.
And when you find that there is a connection with, what you've built and what they've asked for, then that brand is what will grow. Anything that where there isn't a connection is, it's a nice logo, bunch of letters, whatever it is, but it's not necessarily going to make you money or fulfill on, the whole reason why you started a company.
I love that. So now when you have figured out the business you want to do, and people implement what you just talked about between branding and location, and then how to create a brand, where do you feel how, or can you share some insights with us on how partnership and collaboration can enhance marketing efforts in our industry?
Well, it's kind of like what I was saying before, where you're not going to be successful on your own.
Mhm.
And I think it can feel scary to, like, share what your idea is. I hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, I want to start a business," and either sign this NDA or sign that.
Mhm.
They don't want to share. And the thing is, it comes down to execution. And I could share. I mean, I've got a million ideas, and I've started things that haven't gone well.
Mhm.
And it comes down to execution. So the partnerships, knowing that you're not necessarily going to be successful on your own, if you rely on people and they rely on you, you're hitting different audiences. So that's beneficial, right? Because now you have more people that you can talk to, but you also just have more ways where you can, I guess, have influence. It's not just about doing things on your own and hoping that you're going to be successful.
Mhm.
So when people come here and they take a class, it's great that they can come here and take a class with me. A partnership that I have actually at my locations is always, a beverage partnership. So,
Mhm.
we don't sell beverages here, but I have people that, one of my clients can call and say, okay, this is the order I'm looking to put in. And they get the knowledge and service that they're looking for in terms of making the right choice. And then they come here and they're able to enjoy themselves with what we do.
I love that. And there's still that whole stigma out on how to do promotions and discounts, because a lot of people feel giving a promotion or discount, it can dilute their brand or their brand's value. What is your thought process around promotion and discounts in our industry?
Well, I don't like to provide coupons per se.
Mhm.
To me, the price is the price. So
Yep.
if you're going to try to provide additional value, then you can say, this is what my cooking class costs, but if you sign up today, maybe there's another incentive for them, which is not taking away from the value of the cooking class. And a
Hmm.
terrible example is, but sign up today and I'll give you a t-shirt, right? So they're not correlated in terms of, okay, you got $20 off your class because, some coupon. I have, what's interesting to me, especially in this journey, is we have our prices for what we offer, whether it's a standalone class to the public or team building event, which is, on a much higher end of the spectrum. And there are people that sometimes will reach out to us and say, oh, I'm sorry, that's out of budget. There's a natural tendency to say like, but wait, I want that sale.
Yeah, yeah.
People talk, right? And so if you discount one person, you're going to be discounting everybody. And what I find is that person that said no is just not the right fit. And
Mhm.
that's okay, right? Because I'm finding that as we fine tune our messaging and we make more connections and we just have more success in terms of sales and then great events, the word of mouth and the feedback that we get allow us to make connections with people that really are the right fit. So I don't need to provide discounts because I'm just connecting with more and more people that look like the people that I should be servicing.
I love that. I have a really good restaurant partner friend of mine. And every time we talk about promotions and discounts, he brings up his experience with Groupon.
Mm,
And he said, I did Groupon 8 years ago. It took me 6 years to fix the mistake I made with Groupon. And he was like, nothing against Groupon, great idea, good concept, but it just wasn't who I was. And he says, it cost me almost 25 grand to kind of fix up my Groupon mistake. And he says, you know what I will do moving forward? I take the 25 grand and provide a better experience with the people, the way they come in, that we have a nicer lobby, because the experience starts now when they walk in the door from how do we greet them? How does the whole experience? He says, I'm investing more in experience than I do with discounting, because the more or better experience I provide, the less
mhm.
discounts I need to offer. Because
Yes.
it's and every time I talk to him about it, he calls it the $50,000 Groupon mistake, and he says it did bring me new customers, but not the customers I wanted.
Right.
And so, listen, I love, your take on that. So, before we coming into the end of our time, and I want to give some opportunity for you to talk a little bit about what you currently do and how people can interact with you. But before we do that, I'm so fascinated how you start out. So I want to know, because being a disruptive is learning from some of your mistakes. What are some of the stuff you learned in your IT side, which kind of helped you to do the marketing thing? And what are some of the things you learned on your marketing side to do some of your operational things? What are some of the learnings across your experience or your history as an entrepreneur, which made you successful in what you do today?
So one thing, I think people have very bad memories. So we have a great way, whether it's through storytelling or just shaping history the way we want it to look. And what I mean by that is, I can think back to when we opened our doors the first day and start thinking about how people came in the door and then look at like how people are coming in now. And I have a emotional or sort of gut feeling of how that's happening. And it might be directionally right, but when you look at the data
Mhm.
do not lie. And so when I look at things and I look at where people are actually coming from, how am I getting my leads? Which leads are actually converting? There's just data that shows me from my website or from other means in terms of how we get people in the door that tells me definitively, this person either came from an ad, this person came from word of mouth or from another event that we did. And as much as I'd like to think that, people just like our concept and are, dying to get in here, I know, some marketing efforts and messaging is working and others are not.
Mhm.
So I think I trust the data. Yes, data can be manipulated, but good data in, good decisions out. So that would be
I,
the first thing.
I absolutely love that. So, looking into the future, how do you feel, or how do you see traditional marketing evolving in the hospitality industry, especially in the rise of digital media and social media platforms?
I A lot of what we do here is essentially creating FOMO for people, right? So fear of
Mhm.
missing out. And with people's permission, we do take pictures of what's happening, whether it's just someone having a good time learning, or maybe a technique that they're learning, or just the pictures or video of people that didn't even know each other having a good time and connecting, which is the whole idea of you know this third space kitchen, having a kitchen where people like to spend a lot of time in, but also where they make new connections. And so constantly putting that out, I know I can see a direct correlation. Like when we don't put things out, we don't get phone calls or
Mhm.
requests. When we do put pictures of birthday parties or events, we immediately see an increase in site traffic, calls coming in, emails coming in. So that's super important. Yeah.
I love that. So, to wrap up the conversation, tell our listeners how they can engage with you. How can I get an event in any of your spaces, and how can they connect with you?
Yeah, well, one of the things that my vision for a third space kitchen is actually helping chefs who might be saying, "Hey, it's time to sort of hang up my knives and kind of leave the industry and pursue
Mhm.
something else." My idea is really to work with chefs to open up their own third space kitchen and really sort of open that next chapter for their career. So anyone that's watching this that is thinking, "Hey, I'd like to do something else with my knowledge and with my experience," I'd love to talk with them. If someone has a food related business and they're just trying to work on positioning,
Mhm.
they're trying to figure out their messaging, or even just some of the technical aspects of how to set up a website, all those things too, I'd love to connect with people in the industry and help them that way. And then lastly, I would say if anyone has, you know, I would say equipment, devices, things that they want to get in front of consumers for testing, those are things that opportunities that I'm looking at too.
I,
Um, yeah.
yeah, I absolutely love that. And as I started out this conversation, I hope to our listeners they realize that everybody needs an Eric, because with his background from marketing and digital ID and what he does. Um, I encourage you, if you guys have an idea, a piece of equipment, anything you want to get into the marketplace, he is the guy to do it. Also, if you guys need somebody as on an advisory board or on a board of directors in that space, he's the guy. And he's just really amazingly good in what he does. And not just that, he's a really amazing human being. But before we wrap it up, by the way, Eric, we have
Mm.
three surprise rapid fire questions we ask all of our guest here. So before we do that, I want to make sure everybody had the opportunity to check out Eric, and all of his information is in the show notes. If you want to see what he does, is absolutely amazing. You need to check it out. And if you haven't done so, you need to join our private community, which is called the Disruptive Chef Club, which is a front row seat for everybody to get the latest and greatest what we do in our show. They also get to say of who we're going to bring on the show and who they want to see. So if you haven't done so, please sign up for the Disruptive Chef Club, be part of our private community. So with Eric, we have three rapid fire questions. Question number one, and by the way, be careful with the answer, because some people are going to be really upset with you with that one. So, question number one is, what is an ingredient, if you were given the superpower to get rid of it, what ingredient would you ban forever tomorrow?
Huh. Um, Gosh, I don't know. Honestly, and this is not a cop out answer. I think I actually don't want to ban ingredients. I would want to learn. The more I learn, even if it's an ingredient that I don't agree with, the more I have an appreciation for cooking and skill. So I would say nothing.
We love that. We had one of our guests said he wants to get rid of Italian seasoning. I said, you just made people very, very upset. Our question number two, what is a cooking style or technique which needs to stop tomorrow?
Wow. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think the idea that, I mean, I see a lot of like candy bars and things being fried, and no thanks. Like it's either good on its own or it's not. Like I think it's just too much frying going on there.
Oh, Eric, everybody who loves fair food is very upset with you because there's nothing better than a deep fried Twinkie. So you just made a lot of people very upset. Eric, final question is, what is a kitchen gadget which is way overrated?
I'm definitely in the camp of the garlic press. I'm not a fan. Um, I know, and I shock people when they ask here, like, so where's the garlic press? And I say, you're going to use a knife. You're not using a garlic press, you won't find one here.
You just alienated a whole new client because
Yeah,
people love the garlic presses. So Eric, I really appreciate you being on. We definitely need to do a 2.0 follow up on this. So Eric,
awesome.
what are your final thoughts around hospitality and disrupting chef overall? What is your final word of wisdom to the listener?
Don't copy others, and make sure that others understand who you are and what makes you unique.
I absolutely love that. Eric, as always, I really appreciate the gift of your time. Thanks for doing this. And if our listeners haven't done so, make sure you check Eric out. Make sure you get on the calendar, book an event with him. It's the best thing you will do for you and your friends. So with that, Eric, I want to say thanks for being here today. And to our listener, just remember to disrupt the kitchen, fire up your career, stay hungry for change. I'm Christian, the Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur host. I'm signing off. Be the change, be the challenge, and be the chef who sets the world on fire. With that, stay hungry and stay disruptive, everybody. Thanks. We see you at the next